Hello, everybody, and welcome to Liam's Library. Today, it's just a quick little discussion about a book that I happen to love. I've talked about it when this channel first started 3 years ago, like really, literally, right at the start, at the short story collection Just After Sunset by Stephen King. There are some great fucking stories in there, some great stories. And I'd like to talk about one that really speaks to me. It's I recently had a hospital stay again, due to my physical health. Mental health probably has a little bit to do with it too. And a book that I always bring to the hospital with me is Just After Sunset by Stephen King. Now, recently I've been on my Facebook page, with which I am an admin for, called Stephen King Book Club and Movie Discussion, where it's a very small channel, but it's a personal channel. It's a good channel where a lot of the time we do group reads. At the moment, they're doing a group read on the short story collection, The Bizarre Bad Dreams by Stephen King, which is short stories. I didn't really get... I read that whole book, don't get me wrong, but I didn't really put too much of my attention into the group read this time. And it made me think of some of the better short story collections out there. Now, we all know that I've been just non-stop reviewing Night Shift, and there's lots of other good ones out there. Just After Sunset has a personal touch for me. So I'm going to give a little bit more of an in-depth review on Just After Sunset. But the short story in it, I have talked to you about before. I think my original video went for like 2 minutes because I was like so nervous to talk to the camera. I was like, okay, it's a book about this, bye. So the story is The Gingerbread Girl by Stephen King. Now, this story is about a woman who's married and they have their first child. Now, it has a very sad beginning. In the beginning, they lose their child. They lose the child to sudden infant death syndrome. They go into her crib and they find that she's not breathing. She's blue. They can't bring her back to life. The husband's a douche in this book. He gets over it very quickly and he wants her to get over it. And our main character is her, is the mother. And she resents him for being able to get over it so quickly, and it erodes their marriage very quickly, very quickly. So she starts running. Now, of course, it's a metaphor for running away from her problems, but it's also a physical thing that she's doing, and exercise is good for the soul. So what she does is she runs down to the end of the street. She runs down to the end of the street, and then she runs back. Then, the next day, she runs down to the local shopping centre. Then she runs back from there. From there, she starts running so much. After a while, she's like, she's throwing up. She's running that fucking far and that fast all the time. And her husband's like, is this healthy? Like, is this... What does Dr. blah, blah, blah say? And she's like, oh, he says it's very healthy. She hasn't spoken to the doctor fucking once. She's just lying. But she's running. It's not so far, it's not helping her, but it's something that she needs to do. So she's running and she's running and she's running and she's running. Eventually, she has this big argument with her dickhead husband. And she breaks it off with him, sort of. She's got a dad who's very rich. He owns this giant property on this island off the coast of... I can't remember. It's not important. It's not as important as this awesome story is. So, she rings her father and she says, listen, I need to get away from my husband. I need to just have some time to myself. And without being a dick, the dad's really cool. He's like, yep, no worries. I'll get a maid in there to clean the whole place out. I don't think anybody's been there in a year and a half. and it'll be ready for you. And she goes, no, seriously, don't worry about it. I'll just go there. I'll tidy the place up. It'll give me something to do, and I'd love to run on that beach because it's on an island, and it's all about her running. She is the gingerbread girl after all, and all she does is run, run, run. So when she gets to the island, excuse me, there's like one other guy on the island, and he's like your maintenance man. He's this old fella. He's a really nice guy. And everybody else, it's that time of year where all the rich people aren't at their McMansions. So there are a lot of McMansions. But they're all just standing empty. So she cleans the place up. She fills the fridge up with just, like single woman dinners, cans of this and that, and runs. And she runs around the whole island, and she does it all day long every day, and she runs along the beach, and she runs and runs and runs. And then after a while, she's still crying at night, and she's still thinking of her dead daughter. And she's still dreaming about it. And it's very sad. It's very hard to read. Excuse me. It does get me emotional. I think it's an amazingly written story that speaks to the trauma that a human being can go through and how they can fight to survive. Sorry about the lighting. I'm doing this in my cousin's bar with Chucky. It's probably Chucky's fault. He's probably trying to fucking take over my soul right now. Or maybe I'm trying to take over his soul. Put my soul inside that fucking doll. Anyway, we'll see by the end of the review. Excuse me. So one day she happens to run past the maintenance guy, and he says to her, he says, listen, one of the guys has come back and he's staying at his McMansion. He's not a very nice guy, so don't approach him, don't talk to him. What this guy does is he rocks up at his big rich place. He's got a yacht moored out there somewhere just off the coast. He brings these young girls back, like not young, like legal young, but too young, like to be fucking, like 19, 20-year-old girls. And this guy's in his 40s or 50s. And he brings them back there to fuck them. And he's a dirty creep. And this guy's like, listen, just if you're running past and he invites you in for a drink or a coffee or says hello, just leave him be. He's not a very nice customer. So she's like, okay, thank you for the information. And he tells her what house it is. The very next day, she's running past all the McMansions along the main road on this island, and she runs past this guy's house. And as she runs past it, she noticed the gate's open. So she's like, okay, so he's here. And then she sees this Mercedes in the driveway, and the boot is open. And long strands of blonde hair are coming out of the boot, dripping with blood. And she can't help her curiosity. Of course, she goes over to the car and looks in, and there is a dead girl in the boot, a dead young blonde girl in the boot. Now, just before she can do anything, this guy sneaks up behind her and smacks her over the fucking head. When she wakes up, she's tied to a chair. When she wakes up, she's gaffer taped to a chair. And he's like, oh, hello, like, who the fuck are you? Rah, rah, rah. And he's loud, he's creepy, he's a Stephen King bad guy. So, like, some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is fucking hilarious. But it's supposed to be monstrously hilarious. You are supposed to be sickened by this man, but also realize how unhinged he is and how not sorry he is for the stuff that he does. So he says, who knows that you're here? And she's like, oh, she fucks up straight away. She's like, just my dad. And he's like, oh, I know who you are. You're bloody da-da-da's daughter. He won't be back for fucking months. Nobody knows you're here. You're mine now. And she's like, no. The groundskeeper knows I'm here. I told him I was going to come and look at your house. And he's like, oh, what, that old fuck that fucking looks after the island? Okay, you wait right there, honey bunch. I'll be right back. He's on a mission to go murder that guy. And then he goes, and when I get back, we're going to have some fun, sugar. And it's just like, fuck. So he takes off. And now now she's stuck in this chair on her own. But she won't give up. She's actually gotten really, really strong since she's been running this whole time. So she works a way to just use her muscles and use her strength and start working at the gaffer tape. It's cutting into her arms because gaffer tape is very strong, but she won't give up. In the end, she finds a way to stand up from the chair and run backwards into the fridge and start smashing the chair into it with all of her might. And the chair's like putting big bruises into her back, and it's making her piss. But she keeps doing it until the chair finally explodes. It takes ages. Now, by the time she's nearly free, he gets home and he's like, "Hey, honey, I'm home." And then he comes in, he's like, "Oh, you fucking bitch." And so she runs out the front door. And he starts chasing her. He starts chasing the gingerbread girl. But we know that she can run. She can outrun anybody, man. And they're running. But this guy, he can run too. He's a big, fit guy, and he starts jogging after her. And they start running through the whole island and then along the beach. And he's chasing her, and he's chasing her, and he's chasing her. And she's concentrating on her breathing, and she's concentrating on her breathing. And in the end, she realizes he's not going to give up, and neither she. And she's got nothing to fight him off with. So she just decides, I've still got a bit of energy left. I'm going to jump into the ocean and try to swim away from him. So she climbs into the water and starts jogging into the shallow water. And he starts jogging in after her. And then she realizes she's never actually swam in this beach before, and it's very deep. It's got like this basin out there where all of a sudden her footing gives way and she's actually swimming. There's no way for her to stand up. The same thing happens to our bad guy. He realizes he can't stand up and chase her anymore. And then he starts screaming like a little kid, "I can't fucking swim! I can't fucking swim!" It's like, and she's swimming away from him like, you can't swim, and he can't. Sorry, excuse me about the phone, and excuse me about the lighting. He can't swim. And so she swims deeper and deeper, and he can't get back to where he can find his footing. And so eventually she just paddles back to shore, and she sits on the beach, and she watches him scream to her for help. Like, help me, please. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. And she just sits there, and she watches that motherfucker drown, and she catches her breath back. And eventually his head goes under, and then it comes back up, and blah, blah, blah. And then it goes back down, and it comes back up. And she watches him drown, and he dies. And that's it. And then I'm pretty sure, if I remember, I've read this so many times, I'm pretty sure she doesn't run home. I'm pretty sure she walks home. She doesn't really have to run anymore. She's outrun the baddest fucking man on the planet. And that is the story of the Gingerbread Girl. And I really, really recommend giving it a read. Now, before I end this video, because we're nearly done, I'm going to say I used to read a lot of Dean Koontz books back in, well, not back in the 80s, in the late 90s. But I used to only read his books from the 80s because they were his best books. He's got a book, he's got loads of really good books. And they get way too repetitive. Now, people would say that Stephen King's books get too repetitive. But Dean Koontz's formulas are just way easy to spot. So there is this one book he wrote, and I actually think was written in the 90s. It's called Intensity, and it's about a creepy motherfucker that kidnaps women. And our hero, her name is China, she gets like tied to a chair, and it takes her fucking forever to escape from this chair before he gets home to kill her. Now, Dean Koontz wrote that book before Stephen King wrote this short story. And I love Intensity. It's one of Dean Koontz's best fucking novels. But The Gingerbread Girl is better. But when people on the internet always talk about, oh, what do you think about The Gingerbread Girl? I'm like, it feels like a Dean Koontz story. And not just because of Intensity, it feels like something that Dean Koontz would write. Like the female hero that you're really rooting for. I'm saying this in a good way. If you like Dean Koontz and you like Stephen King, you might find the similarities that I found in reading The Gingerbread Girl to anything if you've ever read anything by Dean Koontz. So yeah, my recommendation, I give The Gingerbread Girl a 10 out of 10. I think it's amazing. It's like my go-to story in Just After Sunset. I think it's amazing. There's nothing supernatural about it. It's well written. The characters are fucking awesome, and we get a good resolution, and that'll do. Happy Halloween! It is Halloween tomorrow, and as you can see by my face paint, I'm very excited. I've been painted up for a few days. I get up and I redo it every day. Happy Halloween. Look after one another. Read some really, really, really good books. Read some great short stories. Watch some even better fucking movies. And don't ever, not once in your fucking life, take any shit from anybody. I'll see you later.